Hey, Eric Dolmeyer checking in with you, architect out of San Diego, California. I thought we could chat a little bit about floor area ratio, one of the biggest metrics that cities use to control building size. This would be important information for you if you're maybe a broker and you're trying to determine a value of a property, because of course the more building you can put on a piece of property, the more valuable it's going to be. Or maybe you own a piece of property and you'd like to know what you can do with it. Or of course, maybe you're a designer and the first step is to determine what your maximum constraints are on your property or on your client's property. So what is FAR? It's floor area ratio, and it's a mathematical equation. It's a relationship between the square footage of your parcel and the allowed square footage of the building that the city will let you put on there. So if you've ever driven around town and you notice some parts of town have really big buildings and then other parts of town have just little buildings, this is likely a result of the floor area ratio and maybe some other metrics too, like building height, but primarily it's got to do with floor area ratio. Floor area ratio stipulates a relationship between parcel size and building size. So if we have an FAR of 1.0 and a 10,000 square foot parcel, then we get a 10,000 square foot building. If we have an FAR of 6.0 on a 10,000 square foot parcel, then we get a 60,000 square foot building. Alternatively, maybe we're out in the suburbs, city doesn't want to see big buildings out there. They want to maintain the rural setting or a calmer, more suburban density, then maybe the FAR is 0.5. So 0.5 on a 10,000 square foot parcel, 5,000 square foot building. So this is FAR in brief. We're going to take a quick look at some zoning documents here in the city of San Diego, which are probably a lot like the zoning documents in your city. And then also we'll model a hypothetical parcel with a couple of different FAR configurations. All right, stay tuned. See you in a second. All right, let's take a look at some zoning information that we can get off of the City of San Diego's website. Hopefully, whatever city you're located in has a similar interface. I'm sure they have something that you can plug into. So in any event, here's our lovely City of San Diego. As we zoom in here a little bit, you'll start to see the colors will populate, and each color represents a different zoning designation. So we'll do a search for a particular piece of property that we worked on last year. Did a little bit of work on that, 6035 Mission Gorge Road. So click on that, we get some basic data pops up, and what we're looking for in particular is the zone designation. On this property, it is CC-3-8. It's a commercial zone. We'll also notice it says RM-3-7, which indicates that it's adjacent to a residential zone. So what that really means to the designers and the developer, that there might be some extra rules that apply to this parcel, but we'll just keep it simple today and focus on our property, which is a CC-3-8. So at that point, we jump over to the actual municipal code, which are in PDF format, and check them, keep updated, because they update these every 6 months, every 3 months. They've been going through a lot of zoning updates here in the last few years. They update them quite often. So we'll see up top, zone CC-3-8, and then we scroll down. Max floor area ratio is 2.0 as the base zone. And then if we have a residential mixed use project, we get a 2.5 floor area ratio bonus. So that would be a total of 4.5. So whatever the lot area is, we get to have 4.5 times that area in building square footage. So let's take a look at some preliminary zoning analysis that we did on this. And we'll zoom in here a little bit to get a better look. So the parcel is about 73,000 square foot. We have a total FAR of 4.5, which means that we can put about 329,000 square foot on that particular parcel. So servant space, that's not space for the servants, it's actually space that serves the primary function of the building. So corridors, stairwells, elevator shafts, storage, trash chutes, all of the things that go to support the primary function of the building. And in this instance, it would be a residential project. So we'll put down 15%, so that's about 50,000 square foot. We'll do about 33,000 in commercial. Typically it's ground floor commercial, shops, maybe some professional services, who knows. And then everything above that is the residential tower. So after we deduct those two areas, now we have about 247,000 square foot of area that we can turn into dwelling units. So interesting, the city also has another metric that determines the total number of dwelling units that they will allow on a piece of property. We won't drill into how they calculate that, but trust me, if you will, that on this particular parcel, under the base zone, they will allow 122 dwelling units. So if we do 247,000 divided by 122, that would be about 2,000 square foot per unit. And honestly, that is quite large for our market. That would be $1 million+ condo luxury. And really what our market needs is affordable housing. So the community, the professional community, the developers, the advocates for housing push back on the city, said, look, we need a different program. So they came up with a program called Complete Communities. Now notice this particular project is in FAR 4 under Complete Communities, but what Complete Communities says is that there's no cap on dwelling units. There's no cap. So let's say it's a 4, excuse me, it's a 4, and then we do 500 dwelling units. Now we're down to 439 square foot each, but we have a whole lot of affordable housing. Maybe it's the code minimum, which is 190 square feet. We could do 1,000 units, 1,100 units. Now that's kind of crazy. I don't think there's anybody's ever going to build an 1,100 unit tower of efficiency units, but I'm just saying the city has kind of taken the cap off on dwelling units. So what we did for this particular piece of property is we came up with 343 units. And I'll tell you, our expertise are not in developing the correct mix of units for a property. Really, a smart developer will hire an economist to determine how many of each type of unit and what the estimated square footages should be. They will deliver that to us, and then we will design a building to meet that economic program. But for the purposes of marketing, and that was really the only purpose of this document, we created a mix of studios, townhomes, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms for about 343 units. Quick workup, modeled the building. I think it's 14 stories over parking and commercial, parking in the back, excuse me. So anyway, that's what we do with FAR. All right, now let's take a quick look at a hypothetical property, and then we'll model a couple different FAR configurations, and you can see how FAR really affects building size. Okay, see you soon. So we've learned a little bit about what FAR is and how it works, and then of course we drilled into some local zoning documents to determine where we can find this information. Now let's take a look at how it actually affects building size. We're going to model 3 different configurations of FAR. The first will be an FAR 1.0, which for our hypothetical 10,000 square foot lot is going to be 10,000 square foot of building. So we have a parcel here which is 100 foot by 100 foot, and each square represents 100 square foot of dirt. And also each block represents 100 square foot of building. Our second configuration will be an FAR 2.0, which will be 200 blocks. Now for these 2 scenarios, we need to respect the setbacks that are typical to every planning department zoning law. And in this scenario, I have planned on having a 20-foot front setback and then 10-foot side and rear setbacks. Setback is an area where we're not allowed to build. We can only build up to the setback and then have that clear space between the edge of the building and the property line. We're also going to need to have parking on lot. So for FAR 1, we'll have 10 spots, and for FAR 2, we will have 20 spots. The third configuration will be an FAR 6.0, which is going to be a building that uses 600 blocks, which will be these two stacks and this stack for a total size of 60,000 square foot. Now in this configuration, we will assume that we can build right up to the property line, which is typical in the urban core, and that the parking will go under the building. Okay, let's have some fun. All right, that was fun, and congratulations. You too are now an expert at floor area ratio, the little number that has a big impact on building size. This has been Eric Domeyer with Domeyer Architects Incorporated. Hey, keep us in mind next time you have a project you might want a little assistance with. We are ready to go. Be safe, talk soon.